Welcome back to the Lundquist Real Estate Podcast. I'm John Lundquist.
Tisha Strickler.
Hey guys, we're back again. Today we're just going to talk about what sellers should do realistically before, or whether it's way before or right before you list your home. I'm going to just kick it off with consult with your realtor. So we're all our own worst critics sometimes. New set eyes in your home. He or she is going to point out things that aren't important to you and tell you to do certain things that you would have never done and tell you not to do things that you thought were really important. So walk your realtor through and have that conversation before you ever get started. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I actually just did this last weekend for some clients. They're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this and this. Should I do that? And I'm like, actually do this and be done with it. They're like, what?
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of different things. It's never going to be the same list for any two properties. There are some in general things. You know, have everything trimmed down outside. You don't have to replace the landscaping, but try to make sure it's all cleaned up. It's trimmed down. It looks as good as you can within your budget. You know, maybe some new mulch or touch some things up, but you don't have to go crazy. That's not the expectation. Some sellers think that they have to predict what the buyer's going to want. That is an impossible task. Just, you know, have what's there looking nice. And if the buyer wants to change it, they have no problem figuring out how and when to do that. The word in the real estate and appraisal industry is deferred maintenance. Life is busy. You're chasing kids, travel ball, you name it. Things happen. We all live in them. Nobody's coming to judge you. The realtor especially isn't. And deferred maintenance is what you want to take off before the buyer comes, whether it's inside or outside. That is anything that just looks like it has been let go for a little too long. You know, and we've all got it in our homes. If we don't, well, we're in that level of people that, you know, can hire it done so that it's always perfect. But those of us trying to do it after work and after softball practice and everything else that's going on, there's always something. And so don't be in fear of having your realtor come take a look at exactly the way it is most days. And then you guys have this conversation. And so from there, we'll give you some kind of tips and, you know, things that we've learned over the years that everybody should do ahead of time. What do you think one of the top ones would be, Tisha?
Declutter.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's an old adage that says, if I'm coming in to show your house to a buyer that's never been there before, when they leave, you want them to remember your house, not your stuff. So always declutter.
It becomes too much for a lot of buyers. Obviously, if I've got somebody that has literally grown out of their house, they get it. That's why they're moving. But first impressions to everybody is huge. And like you said, if there is so much stuff that they can't see the good, if you will, in the house, they're overwhelmed by the stuff. I have walked buyers out of houses before and they're like, I don't know. I don't know if I liked it because all I can remember is the 300 dolls that were in there or whatever.
A common reason for people moving is they need more space. Their family's outgrown their house. And so they're going, well, okay, I get that, but what am I supposed to do with it all? So take the stuff you don't need every day. Take the things that your kids aren't going to miss for a month or so and go ahead and box it, tote it. If it's not something you're getting rid of, stack it in the shed or the garage. You know, walking out into an attached one. Okay, so I'm going to use 1,000 square foot, tiny 3-bedroom home with a 1-car garage as an example. And this family has grown out of it and they're ready for their second home, which is going to be considerably bigger. I can sell that house if half the garage is neatly stacked with boxes and totes. a lot easier than if everything that's in those boxes and totes is still haphazardly everywhere through the house.
Absolutely.
So see, you can put it someplace. And you're already packing. It's something you're already going to have to do anyhow as soon as we sell it. So that would be a biggie. Like I said earlier, make sure things are trimmed and manicured down, you know, even if you're not a person that cares, you know, I always think of that bachelor that, you know, if he can't get it with the weed eater or the Roundup or the mower, it's just not happening outside. He just doesn't care, you know, just, you know, make that thing look like you're getting ready for it to hit all eyes, you know, I mean, cause it's going to, as soon as we show up with the photographer, it's going to go everywhere. And you don't want people picking out this or that about the place. You want people going, hey, let's go take a look at that place. So if you got to walk around the place and pretend you're the buyer and just kind of be like, you know, okay, what would bother somebody if they'd never been here before? And if you can't envision that, get your realtor to do it, get a friend from work to do it, somebody.
I tell all of my sellers because, okay, at least 9.5 out of 10 of your sellers are also buyers. They're moving somewhere else typically. Right. So I always tell them, all right, guys, put your buyer's cap on. And if you were walking into your house, what would you expect to see?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing would be, you know, don't start brand new projects. Like if you've been working on fixing up and remodeling your house, you know, as money would allow it or time would allow it over the years, and you've gotten most of your house updated the way you wanted it, but you just never took time to like tackle the kitchen. Don't tackle it right before you list. Go back through and make sure that you remembered to put that quarter round or baseboard trim down that's behind the couch. You know, when you got done with your flooring and you were just burnt out, make sure the trim's down. Finish up those little projects, those things that those little finishing touches before you ever start brand new ones. Yeah. Money is a lot of times wasted trying to rebuild something right before you sell, especially if it's not spent in the right place. But top dollar is easier achieved when all those little things are finished.
Another thing that I've noticed more so in the last probably 6 months than I've noticed any other time, I would say touching up paint. It's one of those first impression things that I have noticed a lot of buyers are like, whoa.
Yep.
I don't know what the shift is in that recently, but I have definitely noticed if the trim is dinged up or if there's a big scratch out of the paint right in the center of the wall, their eyes are noticing those things as soon as they walk in.
Yep.
That was one of the things that I told my clients that I was referring to last week. Don't repaint the whole house, but definitely touch up this trim.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll tell you, and don't think I'm biased here. I've got a big hairy German Shepherd running around my house as we speak, but pet smell or smoke smell
instantly turns
absolutely
people off.
Do whatever within reason you can about that ahead of time. You know, whether that means, you know, having the carpets cleaned or, you know, sometimes it's just as simple as right before we start doing showings and the house hits the market, change your furnace filter. You know, that thing's been sitting in there chugging along with the AC on all summer. If we've got pets in the house, it needs changed, I promise. You know, change that furnace filter and let clean air through a clean filter circulate through the house for a few days. It doesn't take, you know, all kinds of money or something drastic sometimes to just take that edge off. And for God's sakes, even if you smoke, I mean, I do, but even if you smoke, while your house is on the market and you've got that thing smelling good, until we sell it, smoke outside. Don't smoke in that house and put a cigarette out and run out the door 10 minutes before the clients arrive to look at it. You know, it's the way we live sometimes, but it's not the way everybody lives. And I'm trying to get you the most money for your home. And it doesn't mean you're doing anything that you shouldn't or that they're going to, but they will be overly critical. I mean, it's the same concept as anybody that's bought a used car. You know, you're going to live with that scratch in the passenger door, but you're going to use that scratch in the passenger door to get a better price. So, you know, just kind of be conscientious of these things. What would be another one?
Well, the pet odors and stuff was a huge thing. The one thing that I notice a lot of sellers always wanting to do, they defer to, let's repaint the whole house. Yeah. You are never, ever, I promise, ever going to pick the same paint color that a buyer would paint.
You're better off to just
touch it up
and wash them. Wash all your walls.
Yep. You are, everybody is different. Grays. I think grays have been played out for the last 5 years.
They're still popular, though.
They are very popular. However, just because this handful of buyers absolutely loves all of that grays, don't go repaint your whole house gray thinking that painting your house gray is going to make it sell, because the buyer for your house may like earth tones.
Right. Yep. And I will say there's a few things, and Rob, our photographer, he brings it up and reminded me of it earlier. There's a few things that people just overlook, and he sees it through the lens all the time. You know, they've got their entire house spotless, ready for the photographer to show up. And we get there, and they forgot the blades on that ceiling fan that they never shut off. Well, he has to shut those fans off for the picture.
Yep.
And it's too late at that point. You know, so things you just don't think about.
Ceiling fans, light fixtures.
Yes. You know, the grate for your cold air returns going back to your furnace. You know, clean that grate. Make it get all the dust and stuff off of that. And there's not a house in the world that it doesn't collect in those places. But it needs to be, those are things that the camera will see. Those are things buyers will see. And sometimes those things are way more important than whether or not you've got a little bit of datedness to your paint colors or to some other feature of your home.
I think another thing that I probably overlook a lot, that I have noticed a lot of buyers really looking at in the last few months also, are your gutters attached?
Yeah.
I mean, are they pulling off? Because pulling off from against the fascias, all of those things that we typically overlook.
Well, and you know, that is something no home inspector is going to miss
at all.
Might as well just get it done ahead of time. They're going to call you out on it.
Yep.
You know, they are. Yeah. Well-lit basements. If you've got plenty of light fixtures down there, make sure that, you know, just because you don't care if the other 3 light bulbs are burnt out, as long as the one at the bottom of the stairs comes on when you're looking for something, brighten that thing up. You know, nobody likes, you know, spooky dungeony basements. You know, that's what I hear all the time. And if
you want me to go down there?
That thing is well lit and it's not musty, it just changes the impression. It does.
Absolutely.
For most of you who went to the gray color palette and the white trim and the white cabinetry and things like that to modernize your homes, you want the daylight bulbs. You don't want the soft yellow bulbs. If your house is, I mean, if we're doing a log cabin, for example, you know, with log walls and, you know, dark earth tone colors for their curtains and their furnishings, then you want the
warm glow.
The warm glow. But you still want them to be fairly bright. You don't want it to be real dim. That's a big deal. And, you know, I'll tell you, before you run out and spend a bunch of money replacing every light bulb in your house because you heard a realtor say this on a podcast, make sure in any connecting room or in that exact room, every light that's going to be on for the photo needs to be the same. You know, just because that vanity bulb burned out on Wednesday morning and you didn't have time to mess with it, don't leave it there for 3 months. You know, make sure that all the light bulbs across your bathroom vanity match and they're all the same color. And those things do match. Your can lighting maybe in your kitchen or in your family room. You know, that light bulb that got you by, it's going to really stick out in the photo. So make sure you fix it and make it match the rest of them. Lighting is important with photography. And as you can see in our in a previous episode about professional photography, that's becoming a standard. And if you or your realtor, whoever is paying the money for the professional photography, you want to do every little thing you can to really get everything you can for that. So lighting's a big deal. What else would you tell them to do? Hang on a minute. How many podcasts have you wore that favorite gray shirt?
This shirt is purple. It is not gray. It is purple.
Guys, okay. I need to know, is that a purple shirt or a gray shirt?
It is purple. It's purple.
Okay, we'll figure this out after we've had a few people watch this show, but I'm not seeing purple.
Comment in the comments whether you feel that Tisha's shirt is purple or gray. Because Ashley and I are team purple, and Rob and John keep calling my shirt gray.
Is it like your favorite shirt?
I love this shirt.
Okay, well. Let us know what you think. I don't know. It's been heavily debated this morning. I'll promise you that. So go on. Sorry. Where were you?
So I think you touched on on landscaping maintenance a little bit, but I'm also going to throw out there, especially if it's in the summer, you want your yard, your grass mowed down. Nobody wants to walk through 12-inch tall grass when they're looking at a property.
Sure. I agree.
The curb appeal, I've noticed in the last year or so, especially, if I'm walking up to the house and it's got great curb appeal, that is something that I am commenting on my way in the door to the clients, as well as the clients commenting back. It's that first impression. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever you would look at as a buyer to make that first impression stand out is exactly what you want every buyer that walks into your house to have the same impression.
Sure. And you know, there's been confusion over the years, so I'll just clarify this because it's a good this is a good topic to work it in. Do not worry about if everything you have around your house or if all your decor is something that is neutral enough for every potential buyer that walks through to like. You live in it, they don't.
Right.
If you're a hunter and you've got deer heads on the wall, or a fisherman who's got his trophy bass mounted in the living room, leave it. That's fine. Nobody's going to run out of the house because they don't agree with hunting. You know, more importantly, make sure that medications, jewelry, things that honest people would maybe sometimes have a hard time staying honest if they could just put it in their pocket nonchalantly. Put those things away. Put them up, lock them up. You know, don't worry about a hallway with 30 years of your grandkids' photos on them. That's fine. Unless for some reason you don't want people to stop and look at them, they're perfectly fine to be left up there. Put small items that would be easily provoked to be stolen away. Medications are a biggie. Jewelry. Weapons. I mean, you know, yeah, if you're the guy with the deer head in his family room, you've probably got a weapon around. I don't care if you have it in a safe or if you have it hidden somewhere, but do not just leave it propped up in the open corner of the bedroom for everybody to see sitting there. A lot of times we're showing these homes. It's not about the comfort zone of others as much as it is, I might be talking to a husband and a wife who have 2 or 3 little kids wandering around in that house. If they are not a family that is familiar with firearms, those kids do not know how to be around one. It's better safe than sorry. You know, you don't want anything left out in the open that would provoke someone to come back later and target you and break in for it after they're not there with their realtor anymore. You know, I can only ensure what happens during the showing, what they see and what they're motivated to come back at midnight for. I have no idea. These people, that, you know, they're clients. They are not people I know super well. So safeguard your homes in that way. Have your mind set on that kind of thought rather than whether or not this is going to be offensive or that's going to be offensive. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, religion, politics, all your stuff of that nature. You don't have to put any of that stuff away. People know you live in it. They're not going to care. They're going to do their own thing with that home once they own it. You know, that is not important, but things that could be easily stolen definitely is something you need to put up somewhere safe. We purposely miss in the photos gun safes and, you know, expensive artifacts just so people don't target your house from online listings. I mean, we are putting photos of your home on the internet, you know.
Speaking of artifacts, that popped into my mind. If there is something, if you have great-great-grandma's
Mandarin duck.
a Mandarin duck
Put it
stuffed,
up. Put it away.
or if you have great-grandma's chandelier, and you are absolutely not going to leave that in the house before the realtor or anybody else gets to the house to take pictures. If you're attached to your window treatments, all of those things you're going to want to switch out prior to it being shown. So if you are taking great grandma's chandelier with you when you go, replace it.
So hang on. I mean, window treatments and things, take them down ahead of time, pack them up, put something else up. But like unwiring a hardwired light fixture above your dining room table, a lot of sellers would say, well, what if it doesn't sell? What if it takes 6 months to sell? What if this goes wrong and I just take my house off the market and decide to stay? Okay, I get it. We need to disclose ahead of time. This can't be a last minute thought. I need to let them know right out of the gate that this light fixture does not stay. And spend a little bit of money to go out and buy a suitable quality replacement. Leave it right in the box and leave it right there on the table so that when they come in to show the house, they can read my comments and they can see exactly what you're going to replace it with before possession's given. And then if 3 months down the road your house doesn't sell and you shift gears and decide to stay there, you can take it back.
Absolutely.
But, you know,
everybody needs to be aware.
That cannot be something that is last minute. Somebody may have their heart set on that thing. And then they're unsure about what you're going to throw up, you know, as a replacement last minute. So just cross those bridges ahead of time. It'll make everything smoother throughout the rest of the transaction.
Another thing that I have ran into on a transaction that I'm working right now is my sellers were like, okay, so every piece of furniture that's on this main level, if somebody would like to purchase that, we would be willing to negotiate some of the furniture because we don't know what we're going to be able to take with us when we move.
Sure.
If there are instances, it's really kind of helpful because, believe it or not, a lot of buyers, when you're walking them around the house, are like, ooh, I wonder if they'd leave that table, or I wonder if they'd leave that buffet, or whatever the case may be. If you know ahead of time, okay, I would be willing to part with this, this, and this.
Give us a list.
And believe it or not, more often than not,
some of it will probably be negotiated if possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's not limited to your furniture. I can't tell
lawnmowers.
I can't tell you how many lawnmowers I've sold with houses.
Utility tractors,
snow blowers, all kinds of maintenance equipment, stuff like that. I mean, it's very common. And don't be offended if they ask. You can always say no.
Absolutely.
But it might be a good idea if you're willing to part with it to know what it's going to cost to get it.
And it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, I'm giving this away with the purchase of my home. Like the one that I'm working on right now, literally, we made up a personal property list, and my sellers were like, okay, well, it's $100 for that cabinet, or it's whatever the case may be. And the buyer and the seller have negotiated what they're going to
buy it out of
pay.
closing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And so the sellers are just leaving those items there for the new buyers. And
It's typically in most scenarios, it's a convenience for the buyer. It's because they're coming in from another area, or they've already got enough on their plate with the move, that if that lawnmower is just going to stay in the garage, it's just going to make life easier. And they're willing to pay you fair money for it. That's why most of that stuff happens. It's not because they think they're getting something for free.
no.
And, now whether you're going, you know what, they gave me full list price, I'll throw the mower in. Or whether you're charging them separately for the mower, it's usually about convenience.
Yes.
So just keep those things in mind and talk to your realtors. Don't just take off and think that you've got to rebuild something or do something crazy. I mean, that list will change a lot after you talk to your realtor most of the time. I am a realtor, and I think the list of things that bother me around my own home are different than what a stranger that walks in for the first time would ever see. It's just it's what we do as humans. So consult with that outside set of eyes before you start doing, ruining your entire weekend with projects. So, I don't know. Is there anything else that we've missed? I mean, anything else we could throw out there? Don't overwhelm yourselves with it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it sounds like a lot. You can overthink what we're saying here, but it's kind of an in general. Everybody understands that we all have to live in these homes. We all chase kids and pets and jobs and whatever else, hobbies, and home base sometimes gets neglected. Don't stress yourself out over this. I mean,
well, and every list is going to be different for every client.
Sure.
That's why it's really important. I love it when my clients are like, okay, we're about ready to list. Would you mind coming over and taking a look and seeing what I should do before I come over? I love those phone calls because, again, just the one I did last weekend, their list of things that they thought they should do to be able to list their house, I cut it in half.
Sure.
It was literally cut in half. I'm like, that's not going to be important to anybody. Don't spend the money. You're never going to get that money back out of it.
Right. Nope, I totally agree. The agent you pick, they should be willing to come, consult, advise, look things over. I give contractors contact info and do a lot of legwork for people that don't know or that are busy. That's all part of being your real estate agent. I'm not going to tell you that you've got the wrong agent if your agent refuses to do that. I mean, there's different expectations to the real estate field depending on different locations around the country. But in my world, that's just part of the job. And don't be afraid to ask, and let them get to know you and let them in your home to give you advice. It'll probably make your transition to your new home or wherever you're going way easier.
Well, and honestly, if you have some sort of an idea, my client last weekend, okay, so if you do these 3 things that I'm telling you to do, we're probably going to be able to market your house for this. Mm-hmm. The very first question their lender asked me when she got a hold of me this week was, what are you going to be able to sell their house for? Because that helps determine down payment availability and all of that for their loan.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Technically, for a really smooth transaction, we need to be there from the start.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're unsure. Now, if this is the 8th transaction you've had in your adult life, and you've done this, 8 different times with 8 different properties, you may have a pretty good handle on it. But if you're not 100% sure what to do, or if you think, even if you are sure, you think that you might be overthinking it, doesn't cost you a dime to have us stop over and spend a half an hour looking things over and talking with you. So if you're unsure, get with your realtor, get it figured out, before you turn this into a very stressful transition that doesn't need to be. I'm sure we missed something, and with every house, there's always something unique. But hopefully that gives you guys just kind of just an overview and kind of the mindset to get yourself in when you're getting prepared. Till next time, guys, we're going to tune out and see you again soon. Thanks.
Bye.